Okay, we're back with Sophia.
So that's as far as I got. So they sold the Brazil Concrete Company in the 80s. Then we moved to Oman. My father got a job in Oman with a concrete company. And then the English speaking school closed down in Oman. So I had to either go to boarding school or go to a secondary school here in Britain. So I chose to go to secondary school here, and I went to Deanfield School because we bought a house in Tilehurst round the corner from Deanfield School, which was round the corner from where James Casbolt lived, and he went to the same school as me, and his house was just around the corner from my house. Now, I know James Casbolt mentioned there was a film made, and something happened with this film.
You're talking about snuff movies.
Yes.
And you're talking about something that was reported to the police.
Yes.
And the police did an analysis of that. I had to report that to the police, and I did because it involved serious crimes. And they analysed that. But this was all just before James Casbolt went to jail, where he's never to be seen again. And it's forbidden to contact me, so far I understand. But that this is a completely James informed a helper at the time, just before his main court case, of this series of crimes, whilst he was a very young child in Reading, and so that was brought to the police's attention, and they basically they didn't cover it up. They investigated it and basically decided not to pursue it. Now, what you're saying is there's more meat to this.
Yes, because my adoptive father, he was an amateur filmmaker, and there was the amateur dramatics group, and there was the amateur filmmaker group, and they used to make films to enter into competitions, as not as usual, but they also used to make pornography, and I do believe it was snuff as well, snuff films.
What makes you believe there were snuff movies involved in this?
Because they would they would talk about it. I do have memories of being a witness to this myself.
You're talking about being a witness to snuff
or
movies.
even being part of it, or being in it, but not of my own choosing, obviously. But yes.
Are you saying that you could have been actually killed in one of these movies?
I don't think I would have been killed. I think they would have made me kill something in one of these movies.
Which is what James said to this other witness who reported this on camera.
They would have made me kill a human or an animal. There was, yes, dogs mainly, in these movies, yes. And then probably to kill, I would probably be made to kill another human being. But
what do you mean probably? Can you give us the modus operandi of what was going on in those films and who got them? Who were the customers?
Well, they had they would just pass it around, this group that they were, this international group. And I say international because it reached, and national, British and everything, and it reached to the higher ups and to the lower people.
What do you mean by the higher ups?
The elite, the
we're talking Jimmy Savile here, or are we talking Jimmy Savile?
Yes, Jimmy Savile.
So what did he have? What was his involvement?
Well, you see, the group would go to Broadmoor on his request to entertain the inmates there, Broadmoor was a big place that they would all go to. They would go there apparently to entertain them. And Jimmy Savile would obviously be there, and they would say, well, Jimmy Savile requested them to go to entertain the inmates at Broadmoor.
Now, for other people who don't know what Broadmoor is, did you explain that?
Well, it's a mental health facility type thing, yeah.
But what wing or what part? Who were going to be the customers for this entertainment?
The inmates.
And what type of inmate?
Well, all I knew is they would say, well, we're going to go and entertain the inmates at Broadmoor. And Jimmy Savile requested it. So that's where they go. Now,
who exactly is they?
Sorry, the Amateur Dramatics group.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they would give. So they would give an amateur dramatic
show,
play to entertain the prisoners and committed
the prisoners,
people.
Yes, at Broadmoor.
And what's wrong with that? What's wrong with just giving these prisoners a play or whatever? Why are you saying there's something bad about that?
Well, because sometimes they would go and do this entertaining for the inmates, but I do know that in some of these ritual party type things, Jimmy Savile would be there too.
Okay,
and
so he's done all this. This has been on TV. I mean, we've seen him entertain charity work and all this sort of stuff. What's the big deal about this? Okay, he's there with.
No, he was at the these ritual party things that they would be having.
Okay, in the last part you said an awful lot about these parties. In this particular part, could you explain what you really mean by that?
Well, that's when they did the ceremonies, the satanic ceremonies, where they'd be doing the sacrificing of a baby, or even a young female woman, or animals actually as well. And they would sacrifice the animals or something like that. Jimmy Savile would be there. Yeah, he was there as well. He was kind of like one of the higher up ones in the men, because the men were the lower, because the women were the highest. And he was higher up than even my adoptive father, my natural father, sorry. So he was more revered than everyone else. Probably because he probably did more, well, a lot more than they did, type of thing. And
what do you mean by type of thing?
Sorry?
What do you mean by type of thing?
He did a lot more than they did. I mean, heinous things. He was more willing to do the more.
Explain.
He was more willing to do more. I'm going to say heinous, like, I don't know, having sex with the dead body or something, or killing. And I know we've heard all this on Jimmy Savile. It's called Come Out. But there would also be like Mara Hindley and her partner and stuff. They would be there or spoken about, because, and then there was also so anyway, Jimmy Savile was like the higher, would you call it, priest or something. He would have more of the like a cloak and a hat on as well. He'd be more of the commander. He'd be the one commanding the ceremonies, that kind of thing, telling people what to do. And so that was Jimmy Savile was there. Rolf Harris was there. Frank Bruno was there. Then there would be other rich and famous people, the celebrities, that sort of thing. Royalty would also be there sometimes, not all the time, sometimes. Lords and ladies, that kind of thing. They would be there. MPs as well. yeah, the MPs would be there as well.
So what sort of time period is this?
We're talking 70s, 80s.
Okay.
Late 70s, 80s, and going into the 90s as well. But more late 80s, yes. Because I left the group, as it were, in 1990. Trying to think, 1997 or 90. Not left the group, but I had nothing more to do with them. So it would be more like I left 1999. So yeah, 1997. We left. Well, my eldest daughter, was born in 1999, and so we left the area, everything, in 2004.
And just to recap, you're telling us about this now because you don't want your children.
I didn't want my children to be put in danger. Plus, I knew that, well, basically when my daughters were born, when they were about, there's a year apart between them. So when they were about 1 or 2, then I went to the police and I told them what I knew, and I named Jimmy Savile, and I had named a list of people. The police turned it on me, making me out to be the one that was the abuser. I was the one making it all up. I was delusional. And then social services got involved, and then they put the children on the at-risk register because of future harm with my belief system that I believed Jimmy Savile was a paedophile and that he was what he was, and he was part of the group. And because I named him and others like Rolf Harris and stuff, then they said I was delusional.
What do you mean and stuff?
Sorry. When I named everyone, and I told the police about the SRA, Satanic Ritual Abuse, and I told them about the group and the area, everything I've been talking about so far, then the police, the social services said, well, I was delusional. I had my belief system would be harming my children in future, and because of future abuse, they had to be put on the child protection register. Before they could get to the point of taking my children away, like they do, social services do on a regular basis, I fled the country with my children. And then I went to South Africa because I've got dual nationality. So, and my daughters, I made sure that they had dual nationality too, so that we could all go to South Africa. And my daughters and I went to South Africa, and we had that dual nationality. And then while I was in South Africa, the Metropolitan Police, I'll go back on that, sorry. I was given a safe house to go to before I went to South Africa. And this safe house, they knew I was leaving the country, and they didn't want to know where I was going or anything. So basically, this safe house is in Scotland. It's being run by a charity, and basically we left and went to South Africa. And apparently, the charity was raided by the Metropolitan Police in Scotland. The Met, the London Police, went to Scotland and raided them because of me. Why would they do that? Yeah? Why not get the Scottish police? But apparently the charity said the Met came, took the computers, and were demanding to know where I was. But they didn't know where I'd gone because they didn't want to know where I had gone with the kids. And there wasn't any court orders on the children, nothing like that. They hadn't got that far. But why would the Met get involved? Because I had been telling my local police station about my case, and that was Thames Valley Police. I never went to the Met. So basically, I left South Africa because when I was in South Africa, the police there came looking for me and the children, and we had got an airline ticket and we left South Africa and came back here. So I was being chased around like a terrorist, like I'd committed the worst crime in the history, or like I was a bank robber or something, which I'm not. And so basically the police in South Africa were contacted by the police here, or social services here. They contacted the South African police to come and question me. I haven't committed a crime at all. So the children and I, we flew back to the UK, and then we kind of lived in a caravan for a year to go off grid. I was homeschooling the children anyway, so they never got registered at school. And then when it seemed to be then it seemed to be safer. So then my partner and I, my ex-husband and I, bought a house, and then we were able to live a more solid, stable life with the children. But like I said, they were home educated, so I didn't believe in the school system anyway. So that was it. But the thing is, I seem to have not been chased much more because Jimmy Savile died. So by then I felt safer because it all came out about Jimmy Savile. I contacted a lawyer who was doing the when they were suing the BBC or suing for the Jimmy Savile thing. But the lawyer dropped. I got dropped, and I don't know why. So that happened there. Maybe the Met got involved again. I don't know. But now my children are safer. I feel happier to come out because I've got nothing to lose now. And my eldest daughter said, no, you should speak up because of the people still being in the tunnels, maybe. And maybe I know something that they don't know.
What do you know about the people in the tunnels?
Well, I believe...
And we've already had Julie Phelps on talking about the tunnels, the secret space program, people going down these tunnels. What do you know?
I know that there's a connection, and I know this because my family rented a house by the river. So I do know that there is like a connection through the river system, River Thames, going all the way up to London, and because we were living on the Thames, and because my biological father has a house on the Thames, I know that they have a way of transporting people, humans, along the River Thames, and there is a tunnel that goes under the River Thames, all the way up to wherever, all the way to London, that kind of thing. Or as a tunnel system, maybe running alongside the River Thames, deep underground type of thing. So that's how they transport humans from A to B, whatever, all the way up to Leighton Buzzard, that kind of thing. And I'm sorry, what was your question?
Well, it's just so that I've forgotten almost. It's your experience of these tunnels. You mentioned
my experience.
You mentioned Peasmore.
I got taken into the tunnels. I got taken into the tunnels.
So who took you in the tunnels, and where did they go?
My natural father, my adoptive father, the women of the group. We would go into the tunnels and go on these very, very fast train system that's under there. And that would take you to, you could go from, say, let's just say Reading, right across to, say, Kent. And it would be really quick going from one to the other. So normally above ground, it would take, I don't know how long it takes to go from here to Kent, but underground it would take like minimal time, like 20 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. So to cut across the country is like half the time of what we'd normally, even less than half the time, to go from A to B. So to go from London to Scotland above ground is a lot longer, but underneath it's I don't
Now,
know,
could you
an hour.
can you describe these tunnels? I mean, are there windows you can look out and see things like you can in a tube train?
It's like the Channel Tunnel train system. So you know when you go in the Channel Tunnel, you go underground, under the sea, and in the train you don't see anything. It's all dark. Yeah, it's like the Channel Tunnel. That's the only way I can kind of describe it. So the Channel Tunnel is like this, but it has got lights along it, type of thing. But it's very dark. But it's kind of like the Channel Tunnel, Eurotunnel, going underneath. But the trains are faster than the Channel Tunnel train. But it's just like the Channel Tunnel.
But the trains are conventional sort of types of high-speed train.
Sorry, the Channel Tunnel, the trains that I'm talking about are not like the Channel Tunnel trains. They're more like the Japanese bullet train, you know, that fast, like the Japanese one. That's the only one I can think of above ground that we have that I can describe it
But
as.
the train is a lot more advanced. I mean, there must be protection in the seating and whatever.
It's like, the seating is like an airline, like when you sit in an airline and you've got like the seats, not like a train seats like we have in the Channel Tunnel train. They're just like an airline seats, basically. You know, when you go on a commercial airline.
Is there any hospitality, like drinks, peanuts and cigars?
Well, it seems to have something. I mean, obviously I never got that or anything. I never got treated to that. Probably, no, but it was almost like, it's a bit like like, you know, when people go into these decompressing tanks, yeah, and with a decompressing tank, you've got the seats either side and everything. It's a bit like that.
So you're facing each other?
Yes. So you haven't really got windows because you've got like a decompressing tank, but it's all facing each other, yes. So the train's going that way and everyone's sitting opposite each other, type of thing.
And what are the G-forces when you brake?
Well, it is quite, your ears would pop. It was kind of like, you'd feel it, but it wouldn't be like you'd imagine like on the movies with the space travel, you know, when the space shuttle's taking off and going out to space and everything. Or in the movies when they show you the G-forces and everyone's sitting back like that. It's not quite as violent as that. Yeah, there is a G-force, but not quite like when you go up in the space shuttle up into space, or any space.
Have you had experience of space?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Well, bloody hell, we got to it finally. Now, tell us all about that.
Well, okay, as I said, the Greys visited me in my bedroom. I remember the light coming through the window. I mean, through the glass, as it were, but the light came through the window like a laser blue light coming through the window, and it lit up the bedroom. It's blue light and everything, and then they were in my bedroom, and I don't think it was just the Greys. It was like those little ones, and then some big ones were with them, but these weren't reptilian, alien type things. I'm going to say more Palladian, like aliens, and they kind of came into my bedroom, but not walked in, but like appeared in my bedroom, and then they, as I call shimmering, we went off. They took me, and the next thing I knew, I was in the spacecraft, and then it was flying up, leaving the Earth. Now there was a big kind of window type thing in front of me, and there was no talking. There was no voices. It was all in the head, all in my brain, you know, telepathic. And I could see out the window, and Earth was very small down there, and then there was no earth. Then it was going faster out of there, and then so we got out away from earth. I was standing there, and they were like asking me, "Do you want to go back?" And I said yes, and they said, "Why do you want to go back?" And I said, "Because I haven't finished yet. Take me back." So.
What do you mean by that? Because that infers that you could or you would have liked to maybe not come back.
Well, they asked me if I wanted to come back, and I said yes, because I hadn't finished. I hadn't finished yet. So, did I want to go with them? In a way, yes. Yes, I did.
What did they offer you that was better than staying on a beautiful green planet like Earth?
They offered me to go home. They said, "Do you want to go home?" Not Earth. Do I want to go home to this other planet they were showing me? They said, "Do you want to go home, which isn't Earth, or do you want to go back to Earth?"
Well, and what is home? Explain what home is.
Well, I haven't seen any diagrams of this planet or anything like that. It kind of looks like Earth, but not Earth. It's like greener than Earth. It's got blue and green like Earth, but a lot greener than Earth. And they kept saying, "Do you want to go home?" Meaning that planet, or did I want to go back to Earth? And that's when I said, "I haven't finished yet. I haven't finished. Take me back to Earth."
You mean you haven't finished your mission or something? Or
I think so. I don't know. Why would I say that? I don't know. But I kept saying, "I haven't finished yet. I've got to go back." And
I mean, do you? How long ago was that? And would you say that your mission is you are completing your mission now?
Yes. Yes, I am. I believe I am, yes. I haven't had any visitations for the last, as far as I can tell, maybe, well, that happened when I was like, I had the visitation when I was a child, then another one when I was a teenager, and another one just before I was 20. And I do not remember any more than that. And the one they said, "Do you want to go back?" And I said, "Do you want to go home?" And I said, "I want to go back." That one was more around probably 18, 20, I can't remember. But I said I hadn't finished and I have to go back. But they called this other planet home, and it wasn't Earth. But as I said, there's diagrams of planets now we have that NASA give us, and they haven't got this planet that I saw. So I don't know the name of it.
So that's quite far away then.
Yes, because when I was in that spacecraft, I was watching out can you call it a window? The screen, and Earth was getting smaller and smaller and smaller over there. And then you had this, then it was like shump away from that. A bit like the movies when they do the warp, when they go into hyperdrive or whatever they call it in the movies.
Yeah.
It was a bit like that, yeah. A bit like those movies, yes. And then it was like, they were like, I saw Earth becoming like a tiny, tiny thing. And then this warp speed or whatever you want to call it, and then stop. And then they said, "Do you want to go home?" Pointing at this planet, this thing that I'd never seen before, or that I remembered. "Or do you want to go back?" And then I think it was a picture or on the screen of the planet, and then the picture of Earth. And they said, "Do you want to go back there? Or do you want to go home?" And that wasn't Earth. And I said I hadn't finished yet. I have to go back. So, and I think it was because I hadn't had my daughters yet, maybe, or I had something else to do here.
But you were experiencing some horrendous things.
Yeah. But maybe It was part of the awakening, because if you don't go through something terrible, you don't know what it's like to have something good. You won't appreciate the good unless you've had the bad. And I believe I had to go through that bad stuff because I had to experience the good, and it was all my choice. And maybe it's my soul growth. Maybe it's to help download into other people, humans, and to stop them making the same mistakes, destroying themselves, maybe.
Well, they've chosen one hell of a time to do it, because we're
But that's probably
we're
it.
we're
But
not
maybe this is
we're
the
not
ideal.
most.
Maybe this is the ideal time to do it.
It is the ideal time.
Yes. I
Well,
believe it is the ideal time to do it.
We've done over 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to take a sort of like give us your resume or your final word on things for the next couple of minutes?
Well, I believe that this information that I have has to come out into the open. I think more and more people will come forward, more and more people will the victims will start to remember what they've been through, especially the children that were abused with me, who went to that school. Maybe they've grown up as adults and they're still continuing the same path. I believe that there is a way we can stop this from continuing if more people understand and know about it, and know what actually happens, and about the tunnel system, and the tunnel system in this pretty little village that no one could ever imagine these terrible things could be happening. And I believe that the more people that understand what I have said can be more aware of it happening in where they live, where they are, and also believe that it can actually it does happen, and stop denying that it goes on, and to believe that even though there's all these lovely houses and people, families, doesn't necessarily mean, and churches, doesn't necessarily mean it's all sweetness and light. And there's other things going on behind the scenes, especially in churches and religious organisations. And also the fact that the military were involved in some way, or some other force is in control of some branch of our military or navy, or even the police force as well. And whatever that may be, it could be alien, I don't know. So yes, and for humans to wake up now and see the truth, and maybe harness their gifts, their abilities, their psychic gifts and abilities, because we all have it. We all have that, if we just take the blinkers off.
When James was going to jail, I was sitting with him in the first major case that was to put him away for a very long time. He did say something. He wanted to save the children. Would you have anything you wanted to say to James, if you wanted to say anything to James?
Anything I wanted to say to James?
Yeah.
Well, I'm also coming out as well because I feel what happened to James is very unfair, and I feel he was set up and led astray perhaps by his ex, and I was also, I feel, led astray by my ex. It was all a set-up to get him into prison, to shut him up. And I want to say to James that I do believe him, and that I do believe there's a connection between him and I. I don't quite know what yet, but I'll have to kind of keep waiting for stuff to maybe come to the surface, because I think there is a connection with that, and also maybe his family and my family, and the people he knew, and the house he grew up in, and that place where that murder happened that he mentioned. And I'm here to sort of say to him that he's not on his own. And I believe him, obviously. And I do, my heart went out to him when he was put in prison, with that very long prison sentence, which is unjustified. And I'm also doing this to kind of maybe, I don't think it'll help his case, obviously. I think far from it, if anything, it's not going to help his case to get him out of prison. But to say, at least he's not on his own, which I know he's not. There are other people who have come out with him as well. And maybe he can link up part of his story to what I'm saying, to the people that did this to me as well. Because maybe there's a link. And maybe he and I knew each other back at, maybe we knew each other as well, somehow.
Have you heard of Dave Marrow?
Yes.
Have you talked with Dave?
No, I haven't.
Would you like to talk to him?
Yes. I've spoken to David Icke. I've spoken to, David Icke, but that was years and years ago. But no, I haven't spoken to David. And I spoke to Mike Robinson of UK Column. But that was years ago. But that was before I kind of, but even before James Caswell went to prison. I don't think either David Icke or Mike Robinson will remember me. They might. But I spoke to them, yes.
I have to say that the guy that was involved with introducing Dave Marrow to me was a guy called Alistair.
Alistair? Who?
There's a couple of Alistairs in the story. But,
right. Okay. And he's saying he abused him?
No, he introduced the story of Burnworthy Manor and the training that went on there for the British Super Soldier Programme.
Right.
Have you heard of Burnworthy Manor?
Heard of what, sorry?
Burnworthy Manor.
No.
Okay.
No, I know Glamis Castle. And, Scotland's another rabbit hole. Glamis Castle. And there's, then with the Scottish thing, there's Edinburgh, Holyrood. There's obviously Loch Ness, because that cousin lived there. Dundee, Glasgow, loads of places in Scotland. Oh, and the Orkney Islands, sorry, yes, the Orkney Islands.
Well, that's something that Dave Marrow talked about.
Because there is a connection to the Orkney Islands, and then my, within the family, there is a cousin, an illegitimate child who was adopted, and then she ended up in the Orkney Islands, and so she's there. And then there's part of the group, there's a whiskey distillery place, I'm not going to name it, on the Orkney Islands as well, and that's a cover for something else on the Orkney Islands.
SSP?
The distillery, no, it's not called that.
No, I'm talking about the Secret Space Programme.
Yes. And then you have like...
Yes, a very strong yes, because I know another distillery that may be connected to the Secret Space Programme.
Oh, okay. I didn't know the significance of this distillery, but it's connected to the group and everything.
In what way? In terms of drinking lots of good whiskey when they have a nice meal? Or is it in the water?
Is it in the water?
Is the water special?
Yes.
In what way?
It seems to be like more refined, more of a higher standard.
There's water that comes from deep within in the earth.
Yes. And
it's a different energetics, the triple spiral.
It seems this water is more refined, well, it's said refined and of a higher standard. The water we have is rubbish. The water they have is better. It's more refined and of a higher standard. The water we all drink, is aging us. This other water is like a elixir of youth. You know, it's like a youth thing as well. I don't know what it's got in it. But yes, that distillery, there's something with the water, yes.
Now, you just, I think we'll sort of close on this.
Okay.
I think you've got things to do, but I mean, finally, I mean, you came over very strongly about the SSPs.
Yes.
What is, in a nutshell, the SSP as far as you're concerned?
I believe that it's two-sided, and I believe you've got the dark side and the light side, the good guys, the bad guys, and there is a battle, there is a war going on, and the bad guys, the ones that took me, the aliens that took me to give me a choice of coming back here, they're good. The ones that are bad, they're the negative ones, I believe, and I think the secret space program is very true and very real. Yes, and I think there's more going on up there than we'll ever know. There's actually wars going on above our heads right now that we don't know about, and there you go to Star Wars again. You know, when they said in a galaxy far, far away. You know, I think that's more true to life than we'll know. Yes. And the secret space program, not only that, but I do believe there's going underwater on Earth as well. You go deep sea type of thing, and maybe even going down into the Earth, because we all think the Earth's not that far down. No, it is. It goes further down than that. There's something else underneath there. In the centre, I believe, yes. Oh, I know.
And you did mention High Brazil.
Yes.
Off the southwest corner of Ireland.
Yeah.
Well, I think on that, Sophia.
Okay.
Thank you very much. You've done a tremendous amount. Thank you to contributing to Basis 1, bringing the story up to date. From all those years ago that Barry King released that information to us. And thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for coming to Basis as a witness. And may your God bless you, my dear.
Thank you.